doubt that the BMW F450 GS is one of the most excited and talked about motorcycles of recent times in the Indian market. And for me, that excitement has been because BMW has taken a rather different approach to this motorcycle. They are chasing targets that nobody else really is. For example, this has a unique engine. It's a very unusual firing order, something we haven't seen before, twin-cylinder motor. Then you've got that easy ride clutch, which again is a system that no one has really offered before. There's also been an unusual chase towards making this as light as possible, and under 180 kilos for a twin-cylinder adventure bike with 48 horsepower is really good. So I have been excited about experiencing this bike for those reasons. Now, we have had a few hours with the bike today in Goa, so this is going to be more of a first impression of what this bike is like rather than an exhaustive review because we just haven't had enough time with it yet. But I've had enough time to tell you that there's a lot of interesting things going on here and a lot of good news. For me, the first nice thing that I noticed is that this feels like a premium motorcycle. With the old G310s, they were good looking bikes, but the only thing that really felt special about them was the identity that people around you know that you own a BMW, and perhaps the most valuable items on those bikes were the two BMW badges on the side. This does feel like an expensive, well-made, premium, special motorcycle. And that's for many reasons. You've got a lovely large 6.5-inch TFT display, pretty much the same as you would get in BMW's big bikes. It looks the same layout, very nice to read. In the old days, I wasn't really fond of this display, but I have grown to like it because it is so logically laid out and easy to use. You also have the same switchgear as you would get in expensive BMWs, including the rotary dial. So they have tried to make this feel like a big BMW. They've also put that effort into the way this looks. Next to the 1300 GS, you can see the immediate similarities in the flow of the design, in the way the bike looks in general, and I think they've done a really good job there. Fit, finish, quality, really very good as well. TVS, who manufactures this motorcycle, has been setting the bar in this regard across multiple segments, and this bike does not disappoint. The finish quality is all over really good, and something that I noticed and is unusual is that even the exhaust collector box has the same satin finish that you get on the rest of the exhaust. That's the kind of thing you don't see very often, and it's the smaller details that make you feel special about this motorcycle. Another thing that I want to point out while I'm here is that, like many big bikes, you also get a little rubber flap that protects the monoshock from muck coming off the rear wheel. It's again just a small touch, and it's nice to see on a bike like this.
The only quality concern we noticed was that my pants seemed to be scuffing the edges of the stickers off on the fuel tank. And if you are a tall rider, this is one area that you will probably want to protect with some PPF when the bike is brand new.
Now let's just talk about the overall basics. If you're already interested in this bike, you probably already know this because the details have been out for quite a while, but we must run through it for the sake of the review. Brand new project from the grounds up, new steel trellis frame, a separate bolt-on trellis swing subframe. You've got an aluminum swing arm, 19-inch front, 17-inch rear. That has caused plenty of conversation online. I have my own opinion on it. We'll get to it when we talk about off-road. You've got the bike in 3 variants in India. Mechanically, they're more or less the same. This is the top trophy variant, and one of the very unique things on it is this, the ERC, Easy Ride Clutch. Now, basically, this is a centrifugal clutch that works along with a 6-speed manual transmission. Won't go too much into the details of how that happens, but the experience that the rider gets is that it is effectively a clutchless riding experience. All you need to do is pull in the clutch to start the motorcycle, put it in gear, release the clutch, and that's it. There's nothing more for you. In fact, I think I should demonstrate this, so why don't you come over and I'll show you how the whole thing works. Since we're doing that, you'll also get a bit of a hint of how this engine sounds. Oh, that is one of the things about this clutch that you need to be aware of. It's in gear right now. Yeah, okay, neutral. So this 135-degree firing order is unique, and it sounds somewhat like a 270 twin. Sometimes it sounds like an older Kawasaki parallel twin, somewhere in between. Not a particularly exciting sound, I must be honest. It's definitely not as loud and deep and awesome as the Aprilia RS 457, but the character of the engine matches the bike. I have gone on a tangent though, so let's get back to the clutch and come over here. I'll show you how this whole thing works. So, to start the motorcycle, you can start in neutral like we are right now. And then you can just put it into gear without even using the clutch. It's in gear. That is first gear. To ride away, all you need to do is just build the revs to the point when you're at 2700 RPM. That is when the clutch engages. And that's effectively it. After that, you just use a quick shifter, shift up, shift down, and for all practical purposes, you never need to use the clutch again. For Indian city life, this is a wonderful thing. You've gone out for your early morning ride, you've got lovely empty roads, you come back by about afternoon and you've got horrible traffic to deal with on the way home, and that just ruins the mood of the day. With a bike like this, you just arrive at the traffic and the clutch is managed for you. There are some responsibilities for you as a rider. First of all, you have to ensure that you are in the right gear. This is not an automatic transmission, it's an automatic clutch. So if you try and keep it in third or fourth gear and then ride away from a standstill, this is a mechanical system. It will try to let you do that and it will start slipping and eventually you'll ruin the clutch, which I'm quite sure is going to be rather expensive to replace. Now, they do give you a little warning there that tells you please shift down. There's also a warning that comes up if the clutch temperature is too high. We haven't seen that, but there is a separate warning for that. So as a rider, you need to keep your focus on that and sort of remember that you need to be in the right gear. And today there were times when I forgot to be in the right gear because it's just an automatic riding experience. So that is something you need to get used to. Then there are a couple of drawbacks, I would say. The first is that if you're a short rider, this is a rather tall seat. We'll give you a demonstration of that. And when taking U-turns, you don't really have that normal clutch control. So you've got to really counterweight yourself and be on the point of clutch engagement so that you have continuous drive and it feels natural. If you're a short rider taking a tight U-turn with this system, it can be a little overwhelming if you're not used to it. More than that though, there is no gear holding this bike in place. For example, it's in first gear right now and I can just roll it back. If you don't park it stable and you leave it on an incline, the bike can roll off the stand. More than that, if you're on a really steep uphill off-road and you sort of stall the bike, on a manual bike, the gearbox would hold the bike in place for you and you could set off from there. Here, it won't, it'll just roll back. So either you have to be on the rear brake and the front brake and then restart. You've got to keep all of that in mind and it's going to be a little more tricky in those kind of off-road situations. For the rest of the time, this system really works quite nicely. Goa roads have not been too chaotic. I'm waiting to get this bike back in Mumbai and commute on it and see how much of an improvement it brings to my quality of life when I'm stuck in traffic. Final thoughts on the whole clutch system before we move on. This issue of it rolling back could have been solved if the bike had a hill hold system like you get in the big expensive ADVs like the 1300 GS and the Multistrada. We understand that's quite an expensive system to engineer when you don't have an electric motor, when it's just a petrol engine, and that's probably why this bike doesn't have it. But I think it should have a system like that, and at the very least, at least a manual sort of lock like you get on a scooter, at least for parking. So there are these couple of areas that need to improve with the system, but overall, it's really nice what BMW has tried to create here, and I think it could be valuable for a lot of people. Now let's talk about the engine itself. It's not a overwhelming wow sort of engine, but when you get over that initial impression of it being alright, it doesn't sound phenomenal, it doesn't seem to accelerate very rapidly as well, at least not as rapidly as I thought it would with 48 horsepower and just 178 kgs. And I think that is because of the clutch. I think my expectation of how the bike should react and the way the clutch is engaging and disengaging is a little unmatched at the moment. So maybe that's why I feel like this engine doesn't have that pop and reaction off the bottom end especially that I would have expected. Unfortunately, today we've only ridden the trophy version with the ERC clutch. You cannot get this top model with the manual clutch. So we'll see later, but I think that the manual clutch bike will feel a little more alive and a little more reactive, and that will be good fun. Nevertheless, this engine seems very well suited for the role. There's very good drive right from 3000 RPM onwards. You get that twin cylinder torque advantage that you really want in the sort of mid-range, and it's quite happy out on the highway. 100 kph in 6th gear is about 5500 RPM, 120 is about 6500 RPM, and if you really max it out, it will show you about 160, 170 on the display. It's not a super smooth engine. There is a reason why everyone is going to the 270-degree crank pin offset for parallel twin engines these days. And that's because they sound good and because they're smooth. This is not as refined as you would expect, and there are times when I feel I don't know if I can call it a buzz, but you feel it in the bar, in the fuel tank and in the seat at certain RPMs. Today I have found that it is really quite well controlled. It's noticeable, but it's not annoying me like it does on single cylinder engines like on the Himalayan at a certain RPM or the 390 Adventure. So I would like to spend more time with it, holding sustained highway speeds to see what it's like. What I can say for now is that you will notice there is some sensation, but it doesn't seem to be irritating as of now. Also, case in point, I have knee braces on in here and heavy boots, and I'm still feeling it through them. So we'd like to spend some more time with the engine and see what it's like. For now, we'll put it down as character. Overall performance from this motor seems to be really quite enjoyable, and one thing I like about this whole ERC clutch is that you can still provoke the clutch manually if you want to. You want to pop a wheelie or jump a rock or something, you still have that manual control. If you just want to pull it in and shift gears manually for whatever reason, you can do that. And the way this rides is what I would expect from a 45-50 horsepower motorcycle. It's got good drive, it feels quick enough and to be exciting in a place like this. Highway performance seems to be really good as well, and whatever we've experienced of the engine at city speeds so far has been nice. Again, what it's like in heavy traffic in terms of heat, I can absolutely give you no word on that right now. We'll have to see later. The other completely different aspect of this motorcycle that stands out is how it feels when you're riding. 178 kgs is awesome with a bike like this. Light motorcycles just make everything better. Let's start with how you sit on it. I don't think this bike has the visual presence of a 390 Adventure, but it definitely doesn't feel small. It feels proportioned well. This is a good view for the rider. It does feel, like I said earlier, it feels premium. The handlebar moves back towards you. Seating position, let me get the stand off. The seating position is quite comfortable. I would have liked a taller seat. They do have an accessory seat that goes up to 865 mm. They've got a lower seat. Standard seat height is 845 mm. Comfort is good, but the overall leg bend is okay. And when you're standing as well, I quite like the ergos for off-road because there's good interface here and you feel quite well connected with the motorcycle. Now, short riders. That is a bit of a different story. We're going to call Ashley in. He's 5'6" and he's going to demonstrate what this 845 mm seat height feels like. A little tall, yeah? And this is a story with motorcycles. Numbers on spec sheets don't tell the entire thing. This is a light bike. It's 845. It's not massively tall, but it is a little intimidating for shorter riders. And I think the fact that it has a wide seat plays into that. So yeah, it's manageable, but it is tall. What I can tell you about rider handling today is that it's just beautifully nimble and easy going and, you know, agile on its feet, and it's a pleasure to ride around these narrow going roads that we've been on today. I haven't found any real corners to attack, but I suspect that it will be very good fun, and that's because the suspension setup that we've experienced today kind of reminds me of the Apache RTX, but maybe even a little more firm. And in a way, this reminds me of the 1300 GS as well. The 1300 GS got you know, it wasn't as soft as the 1250 and it went in the direction more towards road sportiness, and this gives me that feedback as well. Over rough roads, it's all right. It's definitely not plush like a Himalayan. It's not uncomfortable either. It deals with them really well, but you feel more of the road. For example, we were on the big highway NH66 today shooting, and it's a concrete road. In India, we have really rough, poorly cast concrete roads, and you do feel that surface. This is adjustable for compression and rebound at the front, rebound and preload at the rear. I haven't had time to play around with it. You should be able to soften up the suspension, let it breathe a little more with the road. I will not call this stiff and uncomfortable, but it is more on the road sportiness side of things when it comes to the suspension setup. Braking, again, it's a single disc up front. Some people would have liked a twin disc with a twin cylinder engine. I don't think it's necessary. It gets the job done well. And again, the bike just doesn't weigh very much. So you're covered in that regard. Off-road, that is good fun. It's only 180 mm of suspension travel on paper, which not so much, but you do have 220 mm of ground clearance, which is good. And it's fun. I've enjoyed throwing it around in the trails out here today. Jumping the bike, it lands really quite nicely. It feels composed. These Maxxis tires, I would like to play around with air pressures a bit and see what we can pull out of them. Today I've kept it completely on stock pressures. They're all right, but this Goa terrain is notoriously loose and gravelly, and you don't get a very good feeling. The bike feels skittish. So it's going to take some more time for me to give you feedback in terms of that. Definitely not as capable as a 390 Adventure R, and it shouldn't be given the way the chassis is set up. But it is good fun off-road. You can actively look to take this bike off-road. It's not just one of those bikes that if you find a trail, you'll have to deal with it and the bike can do it. It's not that. It is fun to ride. It's just not a completely off-road focused motorcycle. BMW has tried to balance it out between road and off-road, and I think they've achieved that target fairly well. Of course, there will come a point when you do run out of that suspension travel, especially over unexpected bumps on high-speed trails. But the overall spread of capability on this motorcycle is quite good. I have enjoyed riding it today out here. I keep telling myself I would prefer to have the manual version for this sort of terrain. But nevertheless, it is good fun. It clambers up rocks pretty well. It slides around pretty decently. You can turn off the traction control. So the bike is good fun. Final take on the whole 19 front versus 21 front. Oh, if you have a 19, it's not capable. 2 years ago, I did the BMW GS trophy in Namibia on a 1300 GS with a 19-inch front wheel. We were on road pressures over 30 psi. That was the rules of the game. And we rode through the desert for 5 days. It's the hardest thing I ever did on a motorcycle. I struggled. Ow! Ah, that one hurt. Fell. There were more skilled riders than me who struggled far less. Okay, what now? But the bike did it. A lot of this is down to rider skill more than just spec sheet value, and I think that's something to keep in mind. Yes, it's a 19-inch front, but it's also capable. Alright, now let me give you the variant breakup and pricing details before we get to what I don't like about this bike and the final conclusion. In India, there are 3 variants on offer. There's the base, the exclusive and the trophy. All 3 get more or less the same mechanicals, and BMW is also giving you the full safety suite when it comes to electronics. There's a lot of rider aids in there, including lean sensitive traction control and a whole bunch of stuff. We'll put up a table. Electronics wise, this bike is well equipped, and BMW does good electronics across their range. That is another way in which this motorcycle feels like the bigger GSs. You have that similar sort of experience when you're navigating the menus. When you move up to the exclusive version, you will get the Riding Mode Pro. So the base version gets rain, road and enduro. The exclusive and the trophy versions also add Enduro Pro, and Enduro Pro is basically a customizable off-road mode. So that is one thing that you get. You also get a quick shifter on the mid and top version. The base bike doesn't get that. I think that's a miss. What is standard across the range is the fact that there is heated grips. That is an unusual choice for a market like India, and especially when you consider that this bike does not give you cruise control, which I think was something that we in India in a hot environment would have appreciated a lot more than heated grips. Finally, you go up to the trophy version that gives you 2 main things. There are a few styling details all over, but you get the ERC clutch and you get what BMW calls sport suspension. The difference, as far as we can tell with sport suspension, is that the front fork is adjustable for damping. On the base 2 models, there's no adjustability in the front, but you do get the rebound and preload at the rear. Prices. The starting price is not bad, especially when you consider that people were worried about how premium BMW is going to position this bike. It starts at 4.7 lakh for the base model, goes to 4.9 lakh for the exclusive, and is 5.3 for this top model. There is one more version which is available overseas called the Sport model. Unfortunately, it's not sold in India as of now. That gives you the sport suspension but with a manual clutch, and I think that BMW should offer that in India as well because there'll probably be takers for it. Finally, there's only 2 color options available in India. If you go for the trophy, you get this color scheme, and if you go for the base 2 versions, they're only available in black. The red color is exclusive to the sport model. We don't get the sport model in India. Now, what are the things that I've not liked about this motorcycle? For one, I think it should have had hill hold and cruise control. Those are the two features that I think are missing out. And the base version should have had a quick shifter. That is quite an essential feature nowadays, in my opinion. And it's not right that you aren't getting it on a bike that costs 4.7 lakh rupees. Although you should be able to buy it from the service center as an accessory later. Speaking of accessories, there are a whole bunch of them, including the cross-spoked wheels, the tubeless spoked wheels. They don't come with the bike. They will be sold extra. We don't have prices yet. If we get them in time, we'll share them with you, or we'll share them at a later date. But expect them to be expensive. And on that topic, BMW has a reputation in India of expensive service. It is a very normal thing for the 310s to have racked up 10 to 15,000 rupee service bills. And they did build a reputation for it. Now, to counter that, they're trying to introduce some financing schemes. So if you take BMW Finance, and you pay a little extra every month in your EMI, you will also get 3 years of service coverage, all inclusive. You'll have to do the math on that and see if it works out. It will still work out to be fairly expensive if you look at the long run picture, but BMW is giving you that option. One more thing I don't like is that there's no grab handle whatsoever or any provision to mount luggage to the rear of this motorcycle, even on the top version. Yes, BMW will sell you accessories. There'll probably be hard cases that can slot in here. You'll have multiple options. You'll have an option for a grab handle as well. But even the top model doesn't get one, and the fact that you have to buy an accessory to put luggage on your adventure bike is not a good thing in my books. I also have some reservations about how practical this will be in the monsoon and how much splash is going to make it back towards the pillion and the rider. I suppose we'll find out in a couple of months, but as of now, this doesn't look like super comprehensive protection, and there is no rear hugger, at least on this bike. Whether BMW is going to offer that as standard or not, we're not sure yet. Now, this company has just 24 dealers in the country, and they do position themselves as premium. They don't have the ability to supply massive amounts, and I believe the first year of this bike in India will have limited supply because there's great demand for it overseas. So you may be in for a bit of a wait if you haven't yet booked the bike. But the overall conclusion for me with this motorcycle is that it now does feel unique and special, and it finally does justify you paying a more premium and higher price in the competition. How does it actually fare against the Himalayan and the 390 and even the RTX for that matter? They're all rather different motorcycles, and they will do each thing slightly differently, but we will try and get all these bikes together, do something fun with them, and give you more of a clear answer when we get the chance to.